After being held captive for 5 years, U.S. Army Sergeant Bo Bergdahl is headed home. But the story is far from over. It's first up today on CNN Student News. There are a lot of questions surrounding the prisoner exchange that led to Sergeant Bergdahl's release. We covered a couple of them in yesterday's show. There's also a debate going on about how and why Bergdahl went missing in the first place. The Pentagon says it doesn't know why he left his Army base in Afghanistan in June of 2009. But some soldiers in Bergdahl's platoon say he deserted and that at least 6 U.S. troops were killed while looking for him. One soldier, a sergeant whom Bergdahl served with, criticized the government's decision to secure Bergdahl's release by freeing 5 Taliban prisoners at the U.S. military base in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Outgoing White House spokesman Jay Carney says that what matters is that Bergdahl was a prisoner in an armed conflict and that the U.S. doesn't leave its men and women behind. Bergdahl's recovering at an American military base in Germany. His father says there will be a long process of getting Bo Bergdahl transitioned back to American life. Yesterday, President Obama announced an executive order. This is a type of law that doesn't need congressional approval, and this is a big one. It requires power plants to reduce their carbon emissions by 30% by the year 2030. Many scientists blame carbon emissions for damaging the environment.
As president and as a parent, I refuse to condemn our children to a planet that's beyond fixing.
Critics say this carbon reduction in the U.S. alone won't have much impact on the environment. And there could be some economic consequences as well. For one thing, it could force hundreds of power plants that are fueled by coal to shut down.
The administration has set out to kill coal and its 800,000 jobs. If it succeeds in death by regulation, we'll all be paying a lot more money for electricity if we can get it.
Time for the shout out. Which of these words means to give up a position of power? If you think you know it, shout it out. Is it abdicate, advocate, abrogate, or adjudicate? You've got 3 seconds. Go. Tough one today, but when a king steps down from his throne, for example, he is abdicating it. That's your answer, and that's your shout out.
Almost 40 years after he was crowned, King Juan Carlos I of Spain says it's time to abdicate, to hand over the throne to a new generation that can take on the challenges of tomorrow. Spain is a parliamentary monarchy. The king's role in government is mostly ceremonial. He doesn't set policy for Spain. King Juan Carlos himself is part of the reason for that. He helped transition Spain back to democracy in the late 1970s. In general, he's been a popular king, but his reputation took a hit in 2012 when he went on a luxurious hunting trip as the Spanish economy was in a deep recession. So who will be Spain's new king? That honor will go to Crown Prince Felipe. Juan Carlos says his 46-year-old son has the maturity, the preparation, and the sense of responsibility needed to serve as king. We told you yesterday about volunteers for a planned trip to Mars, which may or may not take off in the years ahead. But it was only 100 years ago that the first commercial flight got off the ground, or off the water. It was from St. Petersburg to Tampa, Florida. Airline transportation has soared a long way since most planes had 2 sets of wings.
It all started with a 23-minute flight in a flying boat across Tampa Bay, Florida in 1914. It was humble beginnings for an industry which has transformed our world. Then the mayor of St. Petersburg paid $400, worth $9,000 in today's money, for the privilege of becoming the world's first paying passenger. Scheduled commercial flights were born. What the Wright brothers started, others continued. Alcock and Brown, the Gypsy Moth. These are the machines that helped create an industry which today is worth trillions of dollars. Think about it. 8 million of us each day get on a plane and take to the skies. Some 3 billion journeys were taken last year. And with those trips went the hopes and dreams of deals to be done, families to be reunited, ambitions to be realized. The entrepreneurial spirit of risk-taking spawned by the early pioneers continued as more and more airlines took to the skies. Pan American World Airways blazed a trail across the Atlantic with jet aircraft and trumpeting service.
A new concept in air transportation. The travail has been taken out of travel.
A smooth ride for passengers it might have been, but for the airline, the concept of risk and reward eventually went into reverse. Pan Am couldn't survive. The industry has suffered as much turbulence in the pocket as it has in the air. American Airlines is another example of risk and reward. Doing what it does best wasn't enough to keep American from bankruptcy, and it was the last major US carrier to merge with US Airways. Aviation has always been at the heart of big dreams. Today's mechanical birds are a century away from that airboat which crossed Tampa Bay. But there's one thing that everyone still shares. They balance the risk and the rewards.
West Coast, East Coast, we are transcontinental on today's Roll Call. Santa Ana, California, you're up. It's the Grizzlies of Godinez Fundamental High School leading off today's roll. We'll make a stop in the Arizona capital where we found another kind of bear. The Bruins are stalking CNN student news from Trevor G. Brown High School in Phoenix. And still on four legs, it's the Tigers of Ipswich, Massachusetts wrapping things up today. Thanks for watching at Ipswich Middle School. All right, now we're headed to a high school in Virginia, Centerville High School, home of the Wildcats in Clifton. One 17-year-old student there got an incredible surprise last week. It was part of an invitation to prom, and you can see there were RG3 reasons why he couldn't say no.
Centerville High School served as the backdrop Thursday for a dramatic lacrosse playoff showdown. But the emotion of this night involved a student who cannot take the field, but is universally admired for his determination.
We try to keep Juwan into the mainstream in school.
17-year-old Juwan Espinal, despite being nonverbal due to cerebral palsy, has a large circle of friends. One of them did the extraordinary.
So he had no clue what was going to happen today.
To make him feel ordinary.
We're not to Juwan yet.
The people hiding behind this banner lured Juwan to the game for a remarkable surprise. It reads, "I know I'm not as cool as RG3, but will you go to the prom with me?"
Who is that right there?
And out popped the Washington Redskins star quarterback, RG3, Juwan's favorite player, who came to help classmate Morgan Assell ask her friend the big question.
Juwan, will you be my prom date?
Juwan, who can say yes or no, of course, said yes, and then was thrilled
Juwan, you gotta say cheese.
to take selfie after selfie with one of his heroes.
And you can tell he's filled with life. We make time in our schedules for stuff like this because it's so worth it.
I'm just really excited and I'm really grateful that RG3 came to help Juwan. Sorry. It just means a lot that people are willing to do this for him because he's such a special person.
Most 21-year-olds do not or cannot run a marathon. Harriet Thompson is 91, and she just did. Next time you think you can't do something, think of Mrs. Thompson. She's overcome oral cancer. She's battling skin cancer. She just defeated 26 miles in just over 7 hours, and she set a record in doing it. For women aged 90 and up, Thompson broke the previous marathon record by 2 hours and 45 minutes. She's also been married for 67 years, so she knows a little something about going the distance. It was a feat with her feet, a milestone of miles. She's writing new rules of the road, just taking that record and running with it. CNN Student News has got to run, but we'll race back your way with more news and puns tomorrow.